We live in a world that never stops offering more. More to buy, more to scroll, more to numb, and more to escape. Until the wanting becomes normal and stopping feels impossible.
And somehow, the harder we chase it, the more burnt out, anxious, addicted and disconnected we become.
This is More, a podcast hosted by people with lived experience of addiction, mental health issues, trauma, and neurodiversity, where the pursuit of more led us to rock bottom and has since led us to finding alternative ways to live.
Each week we have raw, honest conversations with each other and our guests, grounded in lived experience, about what the chase takes from us and what's possible when you stop running.
Through these conversations, we hear a diverse collection of stories and experiences from those who have found an alternative way to exist in the world.
These conversations are recorded in a single take, with no editing, so what you hear is real and unfiltered. Some names and places may be changed in order to protect those sharing their stories.
Welcome to More. Hello, welcome to More, episode number 2. Today's episode may contain subjects that some listeners might find triggering. Listener discretion is advised. As always, you're here with me, Toby.
And me, Rudy.
Hi, Rudy. Yeah. So, last episode, quickly, I think go over that. Just a little briefie. We went through a quick intro on ourselves, quick once over of the idea of the pod and how that's still a thing that's self-creating. Evolving as we go forward.
Getting to grips with life on a microphone.
Yeah. And how we came to literally make the podcast as well, down to, research and everything.
Yeah.
So hopefully that was interesting to at least one person out there.
And I think it was good to see. Well, I think even just now we've probably said 10
Yeah.
already.
Yeah,
to see the things that we need to work on as the podcast and the series develops.
Yeah.
It's been good to listen to.
Progress, not perfection.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
so it's been good, I think. Starting to get a bit of an idea of where we're going to go with it.
Yeah. It's like you say, it's evolving. It's we were never gonna, if we'd have gone on researching and preparing and brainstorming the way that we were until we were at a point where this would be the sort of thing that you could send to market. It'd be about 5 years in the making.
Yeah.
And we still have no listeners. So it's just start, isn't it? And hopefully people who are following along with us can help us, make this what they want and need, and hopefully it helps some people.
Shout out to those listeners in the US.
Yeah. What, four downloads in the US? Yeah, guys, send us some comments. That's something actually from last episode I was going to mention to you is I think we can put some links and stuff in the show notes.
Yeah, now we've got the domain and email address.
And we're across all the platforms now.
Yeah.
Pretty much, I think. I don't think there's none that you wouldn't have heard of.
Yeah. And I think that, if anyone feels like they've got a story to share, then, get in touch. We're open.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not an open mic night. But if you feel like this resonates and your story resonates with what the podcast is, then, get in touch with us.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll put some details in the show notes for contacting us. And, we can do Zoom, we can do anything, So, yeah, no matter who you are. We'd love to hear from anyone anyway. Yeah, it'd be nice just to know if the downloads are all just us. Re-listening to ourselves. Or, if there's people out there. Yeah, please get in touch. Yeah, so what have you been up to? How's your week been?
what have I been up to? So I guess, as you know, I'm trying to find some work in my career work.
Yeah.
I've been dealing with the hurdle of posting into the toxic realm of LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So I did that yesterday. What else have I been up to? I've had my son with me for a few days, just looking after myself. It's been raining a lot, isn't it? So you kind of, I don't mind the rain, but you're kind of limited to what you can do.
Raining a lot is an understatement.
Yeah. Yeah, but all good. Few meetings.
Yeah.
I go to NA and I go to Coda. And yeah, that's it really. Just been taking it easy. Starting to work on things in the background, like the calls we've had together.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing the recovery coaching course. I was on the call for that yesterday. So it's like all good stuff, mate. It's just chipping away towards something bigger, hopefully.
Yeah.
Down the line.
Yeah, nice.
But still with a finger on the pulse that I've got to keep a roof over my head.
This is it, isn't it? Yeah, it'd be if you could just transition overnight into this new life that we sort of want and have seen a glimpse of would be amazing, wouldn't it? But, like you say, we've still got bills to pay, mouths to feed.
Yeah.
And all that. So, yeah.
Pokemon cards to buy.
Pokemon. Podcast equipment to buy.
Yeah. What about you, though? What have you been doing?
What I've been doing this week? I've been doing a little bit of work. Been a bit of subcontracting work for a friend and a guy who I've always done bits on and off for. Yeah, I've got a funeral today after we're done here. So yeah, today's a bit of a funny one. I'm okay. I'm at peace, but I am sad. But the beauty of life now is I can deal with that. I can acknowledge it, and I can be grateful for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, a couple of meetings. Yeah, I've had... So Friday last week, I had a really heavy counselling session, which, you'll probably hear more about later on in the thing. But yeah, that wiped me out for a day. But I've had some real good shifts from it. It's... Yeah, I won't try not to repeat myself, but yeah, the other day was one of those sessions where stuff happened, which was awesome. Like,
I think that's the beauty of it, isn't it? And it's like doing that deeper work and the healing, takes it out. Yeah. The brave and the courageous tend to look at it. It's quite a journey, isn't it?
Mate, yeah. Go it. And this is sort of, I keep saying, again, PTSD, inner child, trauma stuff. It's heavy shit. But coming out the other side of it, having like realizations and stuff like that, is, God, it is absolutely mind-boggling to me.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, and I've had issues with hallucinogenics when I was really young, and my counsellor is, I don't know how to word this, gently suggesting that she thinks I might benefit from doing a hallucinogenic healing sort of course. So, which for me is, a very tricky, as I think you're going to hear today, for a few reasons. But she told me to watch a program, which I watched last night, is In Waves and War, which is American SEALs who, with PTSD, who were out in the madness, seen some real heavy shit and been through a lot, were broken and have been broken for a long time. It's a documentary about following them, and a lot of them are against, not against it, but they're middle America, Christian. You know, they've never the world of drugs and hallucinogens. They're going into the military again. You know, it's not that's not that world, and they've done between however many of them do it. They've got great guns, and by all accounts, it's an amazing thing.
And you know, with your military background, how does that resonate with you?
Yeah, and that's it. I can really relate. I mean, I was in bits. I was in bits watching that last night. You know, these are blokes I can relate with. You know, I know these guys, not literally, but you know, I know these guys. You know, they're hard men. They're, you know, we're trained killers. You know, we're not. It's a completely different world when you have no option but to potentially go through these things and still have to function and still have to get on. You know, you can't just stop and jump into a counsellor's office. You know, these are, they're hard blokes, let's call it. And they're not open-minded to it, some of them. You know, they're at a point where they're broken. So they're open-minded to change, I suppose. But they're not, you know, hallucinogenics aren't on their thing. And it works for all of them.
Yeah.
In a big way. And like you can see these big, tough dudes crumble, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you can see that life come back in their eyes.
Yeah.
Which I can resonate with, you know, seeing when you're lost, you know, it feels like when you've sort of accepted that, okay, I've tried for like 20 years.
Yeah.
I can't figure anything out. You know, you kind of just reside to the fact that this is just the pain that I live in.
Yeah.
And to see them come through, that's amazing.
And I guess it's a very clouded, like, I think there's lots of research to show that psychedelic treatment is having a positive effect on those with mental health conditions.
Yeah.
But I guess it's very clouded in the area of if you've suffered from addiction of substance use.
And legal, in the legal sense.
Yeah.
You know, we're kind of a very narrow-minded society in ways, you know, there's much alcohol, cigarettes and whatever as you want, but you know. So I'll put a link to that in the show notes somehow. But my counsellor does medicine journeys and such like, and she has friends and colleagues in the industry. So I'm hoping that she's putting me forward for at least conversation.
Yeah. It's quite incredible, isn't it? I was just thinking about, do you ever see that documentary about those Thai kids who got stuck in the cave? You know, the football team. Oh,
no, I didn't.
And they got stuck in there. It was national news.
Yeah, I remember it, yeah.
And the way that they got them out is that they gave them ketamine.
Was it? What, to get them out through the really tight...
Yeah, so they had the divers coming along the ropes for 40, 50 minutes or whatever it is through the cave to where they were.
Yeah.
So then they gave them ketamine so they didn't panic through the caves. And then when they come out on the other end, they were met by paramedics and took to hospital.
Yeah, to be looked after.
It's just like...
Yeah, fair play.
When you find...
Imagine that in England?
Yeah.
No. Nope.
Yeah. But it is
a bit too open-minded for the UK.
Yeah. But it just reminded me of that then.
Yeah, that's cool. Oh, no, it's not seen that. I'll watch that. Cool, mate. Well, good to catch up.
Yeah.
Should we get into some...
Yeah, so I think just this little episode, we're going to go over Toby's life, and we're going to hear his story. You know, I'm going to let him kind of lead with that, but I'll be here to ask questions. And, you know, I've heard most of his story, but it's good. It's good. Hopefully, you guys, there's someone who listens to it who can resonate, and, you know, feel like they're not alone, and feel that hope. I guess is what we're trying to get from this.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, so I guess we'll get into it.
All right, yeah. Take a second.
Yeah, I was gonna say how you feeling about sharing this?
Yeah.
podcast,
Oh, mate.
where you're at.
Where am I at? So, I've shared a bit since being in recovery. The nerves that go with that, because it is, it's public speaking and all that sort of thing. This is different. It still feels the same, but obviously it's just me and you sat in a room. But I kind of, my brain knows that there's, potentially people I know who don't know I'm in recovery, who line up the dots, or figure out who I am, or my loved ones who will hear it. Maybe they'll feel judged, and I don't want to let that get in the way, because this is my truth and this is my story. Yeah, so I feel okay. Oh, we got the sound bowl out. Let me give it a quick.
Bring it into balance.
Yeah. Just before we started, we got the bowl out and give it a quick tune, balance up a bit. But okay, yeah, well, yeah, I'll just go for it. So yeah, my name's not Toby Larone, obviously. I'm from the Mid Wales, Shropshire border area. My parents are from up north. Newcastle is where my mum's side of the family are from. And my dad's, excuse me, just a quick side note. When I've been going through therapy and everything, I do a lot of burping. Apparently it's my stuff coming out, so sorry if I keep doing that. And my dad and family are from Winchester, so down south. My parents met, I believe, so they basically lived in a bus. I think quite a few of them live in a bus or a couple of buses on top of one of the Black Mountains in Wales, sort of hippie commune type setup, from what I understand. I don't think my mum and dad were together, really. It's quite hard to get information out of either of them on this. They're separated, but as you'll hear, that you'll see why I've made that assumption. Yeah, so mum fell pregnant, and for whatever reason, they didn't want to be together. So my mum moved into a house, in loose sort of terms, that had no running water or electricity. Pregnant with me. My dad, by this point, had got somebody else pregnant, who is my stepmom, half mum. I don't know. Yeah, it was one of those. And so they were having twins, and they moved down south back to Winchester and got like a council house and did the whole kids thing. My mum stayed in Mid Wales in this house, and I think essentially decided she was going to raise me herself. Quite a stubborn lady.
And so even before you were born, there's a lot of uncertainty.
Yeah, and stress hormones. Yeah, totally. My mum and her parents didn't get on. My granddad had died the year before. Her dad and my mum and her never got on. It was, an abusive relationship, probably on both sides eventually. But yeah, I think they weren't very nice to my mum essentially, and I'm sure she was hard work as well. So yeah, so that was there. So I was born into that house. I have one photo of me and my dad at that house. I don't know how old I am, baby. And then I think I've got one other photo of being at that house, and I can't remember. I'm in the back of a in the boot of a car or something, not in the boot, like a Morris Minor it was, in the photos through the back of a Morris Minor. And I'm in some kind of bouncer or something. But so that's about it. I don't really have many memories from there. My first memory is there was like a pallet outside with a bit of plywood on it next to like a wood shed, and it was all like slime. Wood goes when you like leave it outside for years.
Yeah.
And I think I had like a tricycle on it or something, and I was like, it was on a bit of a hill, and I was just pedaling but going nowhere, and then slowly went off the back into the nettles. And I just remember lying on my back screaming. So that's about all I remember from there. Then I don't know in what order this happened, but around the same sort of time, my met someone else who became my stepdad. I don't know if we had just moved at this point or whether they met and then moved. I can't remember. I think I was about 3. And we moved to a little cottage, sort of just off a farm, out in the middle of nowhere, to get to the house off a main road, off a side road, and then down a track, wind down over a little bridge, over a brook, and down and round a little cottage. That was, a nice little spot. So yeah, so then I was there, as far as I can remember, with my mum and my stepdad, very alternative people. They got hand-fasted, so pagan wedding ceremony. So in this part of the story, I'm not quite sure. My memories around my early childhood are very jumbled, so I might be jumping back and forward a little bit in age here.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
So they were hand-fasted, and the house became sort of like this. So there were stone circles in the garden that mum, stepdad and their friends put in, sweat lodge, polytunnel, worm farm, candle making shed. There was the decks shed for the decks.
So there's a lot going on.
Yeah. And so I think it's also quite important to point out, had you ever asked me any questions about any of this a year ago, I wouldn't have had any answers for you. It's only really through work and hindsight that I can kind of reflect on the story that is my life, because I kind of shut it out. And
I guess, like, after doing that work, from your recollections, did that feel like a safe environment for you as a child?
No. And that's kind of, what I mean is the time, obviously I knew no different.
Yeah.
And I want to make it clear that, it wasn't just bad times.
Yeah.
There were good times, but for the purposes of this story, so it's not 2 weeks long, the genre of the podcast will keep it along the lines of the stitching coming undone, let's say. So there was open drug use. Yeah, mum and my stepdad both smoked weed habitually. The coffee table, as far as I was concerned, and every house had a bong on it and tin with weed in, and everyone's house had a cupboard upstairs where they grew weed. Everyone had mental mates who were like fleeing the country and just
living outside the norm.
Yeah. But I didn't really know, because we had one set of neighbours, but they were a bit mad as well. A little bit less, I would say, but still in the madness. Yeah. So it was, there was a lot of, so the sweat lodges, there was a lot of naked people around, at a very early age. I'd seen multiple sort of strangers naked. I had witnessed my mum and stepdad used to practice tantric sex. I had witnessed them having intercourse.
Yeah.
You know, I think by the time I was about, God, my daughter's age 7, there wasn't really anything I wasn't aware about in the world, from drugs, alcohol, sex, which is a lack of childhood.
Yeah. And I guess looking back now, do you think you had your own coping mechanisms then too?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So I was always different. I've been called autistic because I've got the autism, the posh version of autism. I've been called a lot of things. So a big part of that is stimming, which is self-stimulating in whatever way. Some people flap their arms, some people cover their ears, some people can't control their emotions, crying, anger, such like. And I think early on, most of my early memories are kind of traumatic, not definitely major traumas, but I can remember I feel like I went to bed screaming, crying every night. Yeah, my parents used to, they didn't take me out to like a soft play or like to visit the grandparents or to do any of these sort of nurturing, character building sort of things. It was like I used to go to parties with them. We'd go walking, crystal hunting, magic mushroom picking.
So you just basically fit into their life.
Yeah. And there wasn't a lack of love. I'm not going to say that. I just think priority. Hey, my mum essentially didn't want me, let's be honest. And then she kind of found like the love of her life just after. And then they started this amazing life together. I was probably a bit of an inconvenience and being a bit of a troubled kid as well. It probably was, a bit of that. But my stepdad was he was a poorly guy. I don't really know. They're not together now. I don't really know how that all came to be about. His family, his dad is a cross-dresser. And, I again, like sort of 6 years old, I was aware of this because if we went to go visit his parents, his dad, an old guy, would come back in fully woman, boobs, makeup, hair, the lot, halfway through the evening. Quite confusing. So, he obviously had his own stuff to deal with, like we all do. That was quite confusing. There was a lot of confusion, and then you sort of bump into another child and try and have a conversation with them. They're like, what are you on about?
Yeah. and then like,
you just don't fit in,
And then you feel like you can't share it.
Yeah.
I had that as well. And, you shut down, but I guess that's, the parts of yourself that you're shutting down.
Yeah.
As you go into survival mode.
Yeah.
And you start wearing masks.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's from such an early age, isn't it?
Yeah,
I
totally.
think a lot of people don't realise if you've not been through that, then, the energy that you have to put in to trying to fit in.
Yeah.
I think it's...
Yeah, it's exhausting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot, mate. It is. And so, yeah, he had anger issues. He hadn't been brought through the crucible of fire like a lot of us parents had. He just had me thrust upon him. So, for all of the hardships of parenting, there's good stuff to balance it out, isn't it? And he wouldn't have had that attachment with me, you get from babies and stuff. So yeah, so he had anger issues. I knew no different. So my dad at this point, I would see, I think, as I remember it, about once a year, summer holidays, I'd go down there for like a fortnight. That was about it. another parent who didn't really give a shit, obviously. Yeah, so he used to break stuff, slam doors, punch holes in walls. You know, he was an angry guy. They were, like I said, habitual drug users. They would smoke weed every day. Not tobacco, though, just pipes. And then, you know, he would drink a bit and would spend a lot of his time out in his sort of deck shed playing music and, you know, taking drugs and drinking, and which was their way.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, there's no shame in here. It's just, that's what it was. So quite early on, I was quite scared. I think there's a lot of fear from what I understand now. A lot is revolved around fear in my life.
And I guess being in, you know, that's early survival mode, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
the early age to be having to, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And so my mum went to work, and so he was the person who walked me to the school bus, was at home. He didn't work. I was at home when I come home, you know, and the guy was totally unprepared to deal with kids, really. So he used to wear dresses. So I would get taken to the school bus in the morning by a dude in a dress. So I used to get bullied quite a lot. I was alternative child.
Yeah.
So, you know, scruffy, didn't fit in, couldn't really fit in with much of a conversation or whatever. I remember one time I took a knife to school when I was in primary school before I changed schools, so probably 6 or 7.
Yeah.
It was a bit of a combination between some kid had brought in a plastic penknife.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, a plastic penknife? So the next day I brought my actual penknife in, which I had because, you know, and then obviously things went quite sour after that because you're not allowed to take a knife into school. But I think I was trying to be like, oh, but look at me, you know?
Yeah. Trying to fit in.
Yeah. Yeah. So he used to then beat me, you know, not boxing. Do you know what I mean? He didn't like punch me in the face, but he used to smack me a lot.
Yeah.
He used to wash my mouth out with soap. There was one instance where he had smacked me so hard, you know, I couldn't sit down, like, you know, talking like he thrashed me, not just like, you know, smack on the butt. And one of my mum's friends, a male friend, turned up during this sort of hiding or just after, I don't really know. Again, I don't really have a lot of these memories in full tact at the moment. And he basically kicked the shit out of my stepdad because of what he saw.
Yeah.
And then my mum turned up 2 minutes later while he was beating the shit out of him, and she couldn't get him off him, so she had to hit him over the head with a fence post. And she thought she'd killed him. You know, and this was my childhood.
And I guess, what did that feel like, being in that, you know,
it's fear, like, man. Yeah, it's fear. And again, like I don't have the vivid memory of that. I know it happened. I know it was all there. It's all very fuzzy. And this is part of the stuff I'm, you know, working through on a weekly basis nowadays with my counsellors and such like. So yeah, you know, just an unsafe environment for a kid, really. There are more unsafe, no doubt, and you know, for me and my, you know, who I am as a maybe like a neurodivergent person, especially, you know, not the best really, because going inside, masking, disassociating, you know, all things that I learned from an early age. And yeah, so autistic. I've been diagnosed, like properly diagnosed with autism about a year and a bit ago. Since coming into recovery, but back then, I think back now, and I do the work now about where all the traits were. They're everywhere. They're what, and this isn't a blame on anyone. This, we don't have the awareness that we have now, which is good. It is good. And when people say, "Oh, people are just jumping on the bandwagon," it's not. We have a real awareness of this now.
And how did it make you feel getting that diagnosis? Did that help with a lot of acceptance?
Yeah, massively. Yeah, massively. God, I can't tell you. Like, it just made so much stuff. Some of these horrific feelings, memories, stuff I've been confused by, and I've been called autistic. I've been called Aspergic, many times in my life, but to actually have that like proper diagnosis from a physician, whatever, because I'm autistic, I think ironically, it's like, oh, right, well, that's a fact. Boom, that goes into the fact cell of my brain.
Yeah.
Now I can equate it to all of these issues I've had. And then now when I voice it with like counsellors and that, they're like, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, but I couldn't see that before because
Yeah, it's all just growing that self-awareness, isn't it?
Yeah.
Understanding why.
Yeah. And it's allowed me to grow. It's allowed me to put barriers in. It's allowed me to let myself have those days where I need to recharge. It's allowed me to, which all has a positive knock-on effect with everything else. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, we'll go over a bit more of that in a bit, I guess. That's probably on the list of what I've done since. Yeah, so for the main thing was, I think when I was about 8 years old, my uncle dropped his car off, failed an MOT, dropped it at our house. I got the clutch cable had snapped. I went and got a clutch cable, fitted it, and then I had his car, which was a 2-litre rear-wheel drive Ford Sierra. And and I was allowed to drive it around the lanes.
Who taught you to drive?
No one. I just from watching it, I would have done the whole sitting on the knee. Mum would have let me drive down the lane and that, steering and whatever, doing the pedals. But I just have one of those brains. I can watch somebody do something and I can replicate it.
Yeah.
And driving for me has always been my safe place, my natural thing, the one thing I'm naturally very good at and always have been. I love driving. I love motorsport. I love anything like that. That's it's in my blood. You cut me and I bleed green and petrol. But yeah, I used to be able to, like, as a literal child, reverse all the way down the lane, reverse over the bridge, which some adults couldn't drive straight forward over without rubbing their wing mirrors on. Reverse round, all the way around, reverse up to the house or whatever. And I used to ride my bike to the local village with a jerry can of fuel, fill it up and ride it back and drive it around some more. So yeah, but I enjoyed that. That was, and then subsequently, then on afterwards, before I was in high school, I'd had four cars.
Yeah. And do you reckon that gave you a bit of escapism from what was going on at home?
Yeah, it did. Yeah. And thrill.
Yeah.
Because I used to fucking hurtle around. We're not talking like, pootling around. I'm talking like broad sideways, seeing how well I could come sideways off this field into this like little bit of the track where it turned into a lane then and then went down.
Fast and Furious.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's it called? Drifting.
Yeah. Yeah. DK. Drift King. Yeah. Yeah. And then, and that went on. Oh God, it went on for years. I used to, I ended up rolling Metro. So every time, like my folks, because back in those days, it was like, oh, the car's failed its MOT. Just get another car for 500 quid, innit? To get another banger. Yeah. So, I had a couple of Metros, a couple of Sierras and stuff. And I rolled one down the lane. The farmer, I don't know how the farmer put up with me fucking blasting up and down this track. Anyway, Yeah, so, and I was sort of my childhood sort of involved going to parties. Yeah, lots of parties at other people's houses, house parties, and other kids being there. And we used to sort of all bum together and do whatever, raves in the woods. You know, I'd be asleep in the back of the car or chilling out in the back of the car while folks were at a rave. Yeah, loads of stuff like that. And like we said before, I feel like I was sort of just taken along, and that's okay.
Yeah.
It is what it is. And then there goes the burps again. So, yeah, let's fast forward to... Oh, no, so I got taken out of school for bullying.
Yeah.
Homeschooled. And then went to a new school, because I don't think I did any schooling at home when I did the homeschooling. And... yeah, sort of fit in a bit better there because I could be the new kid again, another mask,
New identity.
Yeah, fit in, try and be a bit more normal. That was quite good. And then, so yeah, year 2000 or 99, I forget. I can't remember how it works out on my birthday. Anyway, 10 years old, Glastonbury. I'd been to Glastonbury before. I want to say 97. I think we crawled under a fence or something at that time, or I got in the back of someone's car, and my mum met me in there or something. I can't remember. Anyway, this time we'd gone to Glastonbury. Don't remember much. I think it was first day, maybe second day. I picked up off the floor a little glass bottle with like a little rubber nipple. Yeah, pipette on the top. Dark brown bottle. So in our house, we used to have Rescue Remedy, which from what I understand is just whiskey. Basically. Yeah. So, if you were like poorly or tired or whatever, you had a bit of Rescue Remedy and then you were better. But it was the same bottle, obviously, not the same bottle, but it looks like it, with the little glass drip.
For a child.
Yeah. And I picked it up. There was a guy there. I can't remember if he was sat there or stood there or passing or whatever. And I said, "Oh, is this Rescue Remedy or something along those lines?" And I think, I don't know. I genuinely don't know how the conversation went exactly. But what happened is I opened the bottle, squeezed the pipette, put it in my mouth. The end of the dropper was actually broken off, because I remember seeing that and thinking, that's weird, and squirted a full thing of it in my mouth. And instantly was like, yuck, like chewing on tinfoil. Don't really know what happened then. Obviously nothing immediately, but somehow I understand since the guy realised that it was a bottle of acid, liquid acid, and felt that guilty that I think he like necked the rest of it. And he wasn't seen for quite a while. So the first thing I remember is my mum had a Vauxhall Astra estate. It wasn't, it was the Bedford, whatever that was, same thing, but
premium machine.
Same thing but different. Sky blue. And I was in the back of it, obviously all seats folded down. So probably like 10 minutes later or whatever, or half an hour or something. And all of a sudden I was sort of on my feet in there, but smashing the top of my head into the ceiling. But I wasn't doing it, but it was happening. I was like, losing control.
Tripping.
Fucking terrifying, yeah.
And how old were you then?
10.
10.
Yeah. So, yeah, and then that began a couple of days of tripping balls.
And did you get medical attention or?
No. So, yeah, I'm doing a lot of work around this. This is like probably one of the most traumatic things that happened in my life. It broke me. It broke my brain. Like literally, as well as psychologically. There's some parts of this I won't go into because I haven't done enough work on them to do that right now. But yeah, so I wasn't given any medical treatment. My mum sort of decided that she was going to just ride some of it out with me
At the festival.
at Glastonbury with a lot of orange juice. Apparently that helps. Yeah, so that was terrifying, and you know, a bad trip for an adult who is aware of what's going on, sane, expecting to have a trip, is enough to break someone. Having a bad trip, not understanding what's going on, not wanting to do it, not being aware, not knowing if it would ever end. Yeah.
Was essentially major trauma.
It's fucking horrific.
Yeah.
Yeah. It without a shadow of a doubt, it fucking ruined my life.
Yeah.
I have struggled since then with a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And none of this is to be that surprised about, really. But I think being in the environment that I was in, as in my sort of home life, the fact that I had been through that almost gave me a badge of honor.
Yeah.
Amongst sort of my parents and their friends and such like.
I think when you're in that environment, it's that's the kind of what I grew up in. You know, the more you could handle and the more you could consume, and you know that badge, that respect.
Yeah.
It just gives you a bit of an ego, doesn't it? As well.
Yeah, and again, you know, I've kind of fitted in.
Yeah.
It was kind of like a fucking hell, fair dues, mate. You know, and all this sort of thing. And that kind of felt good. But again, what I know now, which, you know, is what I did, is I suppressed a huge amount of that. I covered up a huge amount of that. I didn't deal with any of it. You know,
if you're thinking back on that now and what you've worked on, like, do you have an idea of like what parts of, you know, where you suppress that and you have to shut down in order to survive, that you're now working to actively try and heal and open back?
Yeah, so there's a lot of areas. The big part that, you know, I've put, you know, I'm putting a lot of effort into at the moment is, so there's actual situations that happened. There's actual parts of like the trip and, you know, the feeling of kind of like neglect thereafter that I learned and stuff like that. But from the most major thing that I'm trying to heal from, which has affected me the most across the most aspects of my life, is not being aware if this or that is the real reality. Being autistic and being 10 years old and being shown another reality, because it wasn't, you know, all twisted up colours and flying elephants and fucking all this mad shit. It was everything I see here now, but the effects of nature were more. I could see the wind. I could, you know, again, I don't really want to go too much into a lot, but the one thing I'm working through at the moment is, which is quite a good example of it, was we were walking through a car park, right? And not like a tarmac, you know, at Glastonbury, like a field with loads of cars in. And we're walking up like the gap where you drive. And I can see, you know, like in really long grass, you could kind of see like the wind swirling around. But I could see that in like the shorter grass, and even like the flattened grass was kind of back up and moving, amongst many other things. But the worst thing was I could see the car wheels were planted on the floor, but the bodies were like pushed over and the suspension was stretched out as if it was like being maxed out with the wind.
Yeah.
So the kind of the wind was exaggerated, blowing the car. And then there was like this really big gust, and then 2 car alarms went off, and I was like, well, obviously the car alarms went off because they just got fucking shook like that.
Yeah.
And I remember saying to my mum, can you hear those car alarms? And she said, yes. And I think it was like, that's a perfect example of how I've struggled with the concept of reality since.
Yeah.
Was because, was I seeing what everybody should be able to see? You know, was my mind opened more?
Yeah.
You know, was I using the 80% of our brain that we don't use? And now am I back in this? And not ever talking about dealing with trying to understand that meant I held that sort of thought mindset back. And that is right now at this moment, one of the big things I'm doing all the work on is the reality thing. And this is kind of where my therapist is like, maybe going back there might work. But, you know.
Fighting fire with fire.
So, yeah, that was shit. And then going on from there, those guys didn't stay together too much longer. I went to high school, obviously struggled to fit in. The only people I could fit in with were older kids, for the pure reason, I think, that I knew a lot of older kids because of my mum's friends and kids that I bumped around with at parties and such like. I tended to be quite young in the mix. And they were kind of the ones who were like, you know, I was kind of mature, you know, not mentally really, but, you know, I knew about sex, drugs, smoking.
And I guess
I knew how to roll a spliff. And there's like lads 3 years older than me who are like, oh, I've got a bit of weed, and they're all like trying to roll a spliff. And I could just be like, well, look, you just spread it out like that and put a bit in there and you make a roach out of cardboard. And they're all like, whoa, this kid's fucking, you know.
and I guess, but you had that independence. I guess you were less to your own devices quite a lot.
Yeah, totally.
You know, so then that gives you that false maturity, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because you're already looking after yourself a fair bit.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, well put. So yeah, high school. Surprise, I didn't do very well. Oh God, you know, high school is something I'm really embarrassed about. You know, if I could have a redo, fucking hell. One of my therapists said, like, you know, after that acid sort of thing, you were like stuck in a childhood state, but like with a older psyche, and that's where you've been ever since. Yeah, so I tried to fit in high school in every way possible.
How does that make you feel looking back? When you just said that if you could change one thing, that's what it would be. What do you feel? A lot of shame or guilt? Or embarrassment?
Just embarrassed. You know, I was so blatantly, desperately just trying to fit in with anyone, I think. Yeah. I've learned again, subsequently, I can do a couple of friends, 1, 2 friends, big groups of friends. I really struggle with to maintain all of them. So we had quite a tight little group, and we basically used to go to my mate's house every lunchtime, smoke weed. Every break time, we'd smoke fags. Every weekend, we'd get as drunk as physically possible at somebody's house around a campfire. And I would try and wear clothes that people wore. Cut my hair like people had their hair cut.
What was your best haircut?
I looked like a leukemia victim, mate.
Skinhead?
Yeah. Pasty, chubby, following everyone round with a looking skinhead, looking like a right twat. You know, talking shit because I didn't know what the fuck I was on about. That was about it. But there was one of my mates was quite cool. He was cool. He could play football. And he had a bowl cut. So I got my mum to give me a bowl cut once, and she literally cut round a bowl on my head. And I think that's where the skinhead came from. Because it all had to go. And then what's his name off in between us? So, yeah, high school, bumming around with the older kids, I think essentially was that.
And I guess one question that I have, like, going into after that traumatic experience on the acid, did you have any doubts just going straight into smoking weed and just dabbling with drugs?
No, didn't even cross my mind. I think the first year I was at high school, to fit in with the other kids, I used to smoke grass, like actual grass out of a garden.
Yeah,
I used to put it in cigarette papers and smoke it.
Yeah.
Obviously just smoking the paper.
Yeah.
Because that was cool. But again, it was just a thing everyone I've sort of had been around smoked in one way or another.
What was the other thing? Did you ever like smoking banana skins?
No.
There was something.
I could just always nick my parents' puff.
Yeah.
Went into habitually smoking weed from the age of about 12, and cigarettes. We used to go up the auction yard and, get on it. And then, I pretty much smoked weed every day after that for quite a while. I went to college. I just scraped enough. I got my highest things were I got 4 C's, which got me into college. The weekend before I started college, stoned out my face and pissed out of my tree, I broke my ankle on a trampoline at a party. So went to college on crutches, like a twat. There you go.
And like, was the using days? It was still like the fun times of being young. Still there.
Yeah, and it was just where I'm from. It's just what everyone does.
Yeah,
there's not a huge amount else to do. It's kind of what you do.
Yeah.
And
I can resonate with that.
Yeah, mate. Yeah. It's like they where I'm from. I'm sure there's many places, but they call it like the black hole center of the universe. It's like it's mental. I haven't actually been back up there for a little bit now, but like there's still sawdust on the floors in the pubs and that. Still people smoking weed in the beer gardens, and it's just fucking time warp, mate.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the ankle first sort of like proper, what's the word? First time sort of using held me back in life, I think, because I was at a point where, that sort of clipped my wings a little bit, as it were. And then got an apprenticeship, smoking weed every day, late every day, got sacked.
Do what apprenticeship?
Mechanic.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah. So went to college as a mechanic, then picked up an apprenticeship locally and was just fucking baked all the time. Was always late, always had an excuse. This is where I'd learned, you just talk shit. Yeah, well, fucking car broke down, dog ate my alarm, fucking whatever.
And that's the control and manipulation from an early...
Yeah, mate.
Telling that,
the lies. The webs of lies as well. Yeah. So that was great. And again, used to hang around with all the older lot, and some of them had gone to prison for fighting and stuff and had come back out, and we're slowly sort of creeping towards this dark side of life, really. Maybe let's say it was shifting from like weed and being brought up by hippies and a bit unsafe, but that's what you do around here, to being sort of a bit more like darker, a bit more like
the pleasure pain balance starts to tip slightly.
Bit more seedy, the fighting sort of started. We go to young farmers dances. If you don't know what young farmers dance is, in the country, farmers have like their own sort of community, and they have like dances and stuff part of it. But we weren't farmers, but you can still go to them. But obviously we would just go into fights and drink beer and womanize. And this is where I suppose I can see now the obsession started. So weed being one of them, and smoking.
Yeah.
So I now, smoked full-time properly, cigarettes, smoking weed when I wasn't like in public. Again, beginning of isolation, shutting myself away in a garage, caning weed, playing PlayStation with my mates. Great. I struggled with my image quite a bit because I was obviously very insecure, very afraid, didn't have any self-worth. So got into going to the gym quite a lot in my sort of later teens, alongside taking steroids, because again, the sort of underbelly, we were kind of going down the road, we were starting to sell coke. We'd go and some mates, we'd go and pick up some large amounts of coke from places. Can I say this on the... Yeah.
Yeah. I guess, yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
Well. Toby Lerone, look him up. And, and then you had to be, because you have to do drugs on tech, and you have to be this hard guy that no one would rip off. And, it's all just fucking angling that way.
It's a lifestyle, isn't it? And you must, like, as you say, with all of those internal struggles, like...
Yeah.
The coping mechanisms are inevitable when you look at it backwards now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. The substances and steroids and...
Yeah, totally.
It's all just...
Yeah, like you say, it's inevitable. Yeah, if you put all those ingredients, they're only going to mix up one thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so... But I had got really into sort of my exercise throughout sort of like my late teens, I suppose. I'd lived with partners and moved back home briefly and moved back out and lived with mates and had relationships and stuff, but it was all just based around chaos. None of it was, I was kind of, I don't want to say none of it was real. It was all very real. I was trying, but none of it was ever going to go anywhere. Because, I was so masked, I was so broken, I was so detached, I was, and uneducated in everything. Uneducated in, no fatherhood symbol, no literal education, no boundaries, no nothing, Yeah,
I guess that's what they say, isn't it? You only know what you only know.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, it's no one's fault. So I sort of, one of the guys who I used to sell drugs with and do steroids with, I turned up at his house one day and he was beating shit out of his missus. Again, can I say that? I don't know. We don't edit this. So
don't
I
have
hope
to
so.
say his name.
Yeah.
As long as you don't put his address.
Yeah. And I was like, fuck's sake. It was quite obvious roid rage. So that for me was quite a big wake-up call in regards to that. So I kind of put a stop to that quite quickly and got more into sort of the natural exercise side of things. I discovered running. So up until this point, I would literally do coke and then go to the gym and then go straight out from there. I suppose it's important to add, at this point, I worked away predominantly. So I was away sort of Monday to Friday, earning, for someone where I lived and my age, good money.
Yeah.
So I had a nice car. I had my own place. I had money. And I just spent...
Drug money as well.
Yeah, and I just spent a week living out of a Premier Inn, fucking hosing Stella every night, eating mixed grills, pounding the pavements and that. to come home just ready just to be on it to a death until I had to leave again 4 o'clock Monday morning. So that cycle went around and around. I think running saved me. I genuinely did. That was my only time I was with self.
Yeah.
The only time, and the only thing I did for myself. I think if I hadn't have had that, my story would have gone a lot different. I got to a point where I felt like I was going down a bad road.
Origin, the demise.
Yeah. I didn't see any way out of where I was. I could see people who had been around where I was from forever just getting worse. There's nothing to fucking do where I'm from. Fuck being a mechanic.
Yeah.
I mean, if there's any mechanics listening, respect. I still do it now, but I do it as a hobby.
Thank you for listening to the episode, guys. We're going to stop this one here, not because the story's finished, but because it deserves more space. We'll continue where we left off in the next episode. Just wanted to say, if this has brought anything up for you personally, given the topics discussed, please be gentle with yourself. Part 2 is coming in the next episode. We'll meet you there. Thank you.
We pay the cost, the deeper we delve, but always more. Never enough. Always more. Never enough. Until it breaks, or you do. Until it breaks, all you do, all you do.